What's going on, Junkie Nation? Gorgeous George and Goes are back again with another MMA superstar. This time it's Billy Quarantillo, who's going to be facing Shane Burgos at UFC 268. And guess what, folks? They're on the main card. These featherweights are slotted in the second spot. Man, I can't wait for this one. Hey, Billy, how you doing?
Hey, Gorgeous George. Thanks for having me, man.
I love your spot there, like your setup. You got the mic. I mean, you're all dialed in. Is that a little man cave or is that your media room? What's going on over there?
Yeah, you could call it. I mean, I would say it's a man cave and a media room. I do some commentary here. I do a lot of interviews. So I basically bought this whole setup, brand new computer, mic, all that, during the pandemic last year, just because we were doing a lot of like Zoom situations. This is my like little office. I got all like my fighter stuff over here on this wall. I'm going to probably move around the camera. It's still being worked on. It's not finished yet, but yeah, the microphone and the camera come in handy for the commentary. I do commentary for Stand Out Fighting Tournament, SFT in Brazil. I do the English version, and I've been doing that pretty consistently for the past year. So it's actually worked out, and I got to have a good environment to do it. I feel like I'm at my best in this environment here.
So you're a color commentator or a play-by-play?
I don't know what you'd call it. I would say I'm the color commentary. My partner Jay Adams does a really good job of introducing everyone, getting the show up and running. But then when they're in situations like they're in half guard and they're doing the grappling and they're doing something that he might not be as used to, then I can come in and kind of give my perspective on it. But I'm doing it full time with him, so it's a dream job. I love doing anything with MMA, coaching, fighting, commentary. I love it all. So I'm here for it. If it's MMA related, I'm into it.
Is it live or are they tapes of older fights?
So that's a good question. They've been mixed. A lot of them have been tapes of other fights. This past Saturday, we did a live one. There was a little bit of there's a couple things we could have got better at. But I'm doing another one this Saturday. It's going to be on Fight TV. It's an all women's card for breast cancer awareness. It's cool. They got them all decked out in pink, everything. So me and Jay Adams will be going live for that one. And last Saturday, we did it live, and there were some bangers of just excellent fights. So I'm pretty much getting paid to watch and study Brazilian fighters, and a lot of these people, a lot of these guys I've seen, potentially being in the UFC and getting to that next level. So it's pretty cool.
When's the last time that as a commentator you saw either a move or a strategy where you said, implementing that at Monday's practice?
There's a lot of times where they'll do something and I'll be like, oh man, like that wasn't a good idea. Like shouldn't have done that. And then there was the last one I saw of that. It was a girl and she kept throwing a spinning back fist and then would throw like the other arm with it. And I was like, oh man, I want to try that. And I haven't successfully landed it yet, but that was one of those where I was like, oh, I haven't seen that before. And like I said, she was throwing like a spinning back fist, but she was throwing both of her arms. So that was one where I was like, oh, that was pretty creative. I haven't seen that before. So it was good. I saw this last fight. I saw a guy, he kept diving down for leg locks. And I kept saying, I'm like, oh man, you got to be careful. This isn't, a jiu-jitsu match. And sure enough, he was going for the leg and the guy just pounded his head in. And it was a good reminder that you got to be, kind of careful with those.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome to hear that you were inspired by, the fighters that whose action you're calling. And they say you can never learn everything that there is in MMA, So I always give the example. Let's say there's 1,000 techniques in MMA, and let's say 900, and that's why you're a veteran now in the UFC. You know a lot. Well, there's still 100 you may not know, and there may be someone that knows only 200 techniques. They're still growing. Maybe they're amateur, whatever, but one of the ones they do know, might be one of the hundreds you don't know. So you can always learn, and that's pretty cool. I wanted to ask you, did you ever see Karate Kid 2? I mean, that technique where they're swinging back and forth, is that kind of what you're describing, or with a full 360?
Yeah, no, it was a full 360. And like I said, I don't think the girl won, but I remember she did that. She did it like 3 or 4 times and she landed it. But yeah, she went all the way around 360. And, she would like throw her one arm and then would
Yeah.
keep going and land this one. And I'm like, and then she would try it like going the other way. And like I was saying, I don't remember if she won the fight. I don't think she did, but that was definitely like the highlight of it, where I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. I might have to add that one. And I completely agree, man. I'm always learning new stuff from everyone, whether they have a million more fights than me or they're up and comers. If they're trying something and it works, I'll definitely give it a shot. And if it works for me, I could use it in a fight.
It almost seems like the type of move that you can file for last 10 seconds of a round, or, like when it's not, when the risky move can't come back to haunt you, perhaps. I don't know if your fighters are even thinking of that type of stuff. Once the fight starts unfolding and you get hit, who knows what kind of clarity you might have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it's just like I said, I'm in a great position. I'm getting a lot of recognition being in the UFC, so it's cool that they picked me for this job. It's basically a dream job. I basically just sit at home and watch fights in Portuguese and give them the English breakdown. But I'm also learning and studying, and that's pretty much my job as a fighter anyways, to kind of look around, see what everyone else is doing, seeing what works for me, seeing what I can add to my game, because I'm still, even though I'm 32 years old, I'm still learning and growing as a fighter. I've only been doing this for 11 years, and that's from scratch. So I'm still learning and growing every single day.
So let's talk about this matchup, man. Shane Burgos, UFC 268, 2 title fights in the Big Apple. They always make a huge splash, and to get on that main card, that's got to feel pretty special to you.
Yeah, just amazing, man. When they first told me it was going to be Shane Burgos, or when they first told me that they were looking at MSG, I was, kind of getting excited, but it wasn't official for a while. And then they said Shane Burgos at MSG. I couldn't have said yes fast enough. I think I like dropped down to my knees and just thank God that I'm in this position to make some real money, to fight a guy in the top 15, to get some real recognition. And then next thing you know, I think it was like 2.5 weeks ago, it popped up on ESPN, and that's actually where I saw it, where they're like, all right, here's your 268 main card. Because at first they had us in like the middle of the prelims. I think because that Sean Strickland, Luke Rockhold fight dropping out, that they actually bumped us up to the main card. I was watching ESPN just like everyone else, and it popped up, and I'm like, oh, there I am. And then it took me like a second to realize. I was like, oh man, that's not the prelims. That's the main card. That's an even bigger, even more pressure to be put on me. But I think at this point, they're, just fighting in the UFC, there's already enough pressure. So I think it was already capped out. So I think, fighting Shane Burgos, fighting at Madison Square Garden, it's just more excitement for me, more excitement for my family, and bucket list type situation. I got into the sport to be a world champion. I've trained almost every day. If I'm not training, I'm recovering, but I've put in the work. I think I've earned this position. I know a lot of other guys have earned positions like this that weren't able to get them. So I just thank God that whatever I did right to put myself in this position, it paid off, and now I just got to capitalize on it.
Billy, I know as far as preparation goes for the fight, I know you'll be prepared for that. You've shown us that in the past. But what about the things that you're talking about? Emotions, the change in where you're going to be now, the big crowd, all that stuff. Is there a little bit of training that goes along with that? I know some people do meditation. They try and put themselves in that moment. Do you think that's something that once the cage door closed, it's just business as usual? Or do you think that has some kind of effect a little bit on fighters?
Yeah, it's something that I would say it is like a meditation, or like it's like mental practice, just preparing myself for fighting in any type of crowd is a lot different than fighting at the Apex. And I've had 5 fights at the Apex, so I've gotten pretty used to only being a small number of people physically there. Obviously like the cameras are there and I understand that. But yeah, this is easily the biggest crowd that I'm going to be a part of. I fought on the prelims in Washington, D.C. and it was a sold out crowd. There was a lot of people there still, but it was a fight night, and it wasn't the type of energy that's going to happen at Madison Square Garden, especially it's the first time coming back in a couple of years. It's an absolutely stacked card. I think the excitement for that's going to be through the roof. And I just need to, I've been visualizing and preparing myself, to feed off of that energy, but don't let it consume you. Like don't let it get the best of me. Don't make it anything bigger than it is, because at the end of the day, I've already fought in big fights. I'm 4-1 in the UFC. I have 3 finishes. I fought, big cards. I've been at the main event probably 10 times as a pro before I got in the UFC. So I fought on big cards. This is obviously the biggest one. So my goal and my game plan is to kind of channel that energy. Don't be influenced as much by the crowd. If I get a big takedown and the crowd's getting reckless, I just need to play my game. But I will use that energy. I will use that energy to fuel me and to motivate me to fight my ass off and make it exciting for the fans too.
Billy, this is going to be your 6th fight now. Do you feel like maybe this fight and the placement where you're at, the organization has shown a lot of faith in you? Do you feel like this is the fight where maybe we shed the newcomer, the up-and-comer Billy Quarantillo? Now it's more like, do you feel like an established veteran now? I mean, this is going to be the 6th time you walk through, right?
Yeah, and I can tell by, just the people that are interviewing me, everyone's saying my name right now. It's getting better. But yeah, I think so too. I think, you look at that card, I'm definitely the least recognized name on the card. I'm the only guy without a number next to his name, which is going to change next Saturday. But yeah, I completely agree with that. I think it's, when I first thought of the UFC, it was like, oh man, I'm going to get in the UFC. And once I get in, I'm going to be a big star and, all these glorious things are going to happen. And it's not like that. You got to work your way up. There's so many guys in the UFC now that you sign with the UFC, you're not a star right away. So, and I never had a big push from like a local promotion. Like I see some of these guys, coming from Cage Warriors or, like One or these other promotions, and they already have a lot of recognition. So I've had to work for my recognition. I've had to work for my spotlight. And as long as things go how I think they're going to go on Saturday, I think I'm going to be a household name by Monday and at least be up in that conversation of, this kid's got to fight on a pay-per-view. He's got to be on the main card. He's got a number next to his name. Those are the conversations I want to be having after next Saturday.
Man, this is awesome getting to know you. And I'm only going to tell you this because it's been brought up a few times in the interview, the pronunciation of the last name. I bet on you big in the Spike Carlisle fight.
Nice. Hell yeah.
And I always got to tip my hat to my man, Dan Tom, our fight analyst. I get the feedback from him and some others. And it was just one of those train wreck weeks where I needed to bounce back, You must have spent every ounce of energy in that fight. That was a hell of a fight against Spike. You got the decision. And I was like, kind of walking around, like, that's my dog, Billy. Billy too,
Hell yeah, man.
First I never met you, but I was so happy. Had a few beers in me, and then we get to the interview part, and I'm not sure who said Billy Quarantillo, and you go, I got to correct you. And I was like, oh yeah. My God, this guy, what's going on here? Just get to the post fight, But I'm proud of you that you stood up and gave the proper pronunciation, because guess what? It made us notice, even that one moment, it made us take notice. And you're right. Sometimes you fighters get lost in the shuffle until you're a ranked fighter or if you've done something stupid against the law or whatever, maybe for the wrong reasons, But even that one moment, it made me remember you, that between the money I won, that correction, and then, of course, I think Dana White Contenders is a great platform to begin with. But, this is great. This is great that now you do get, after so many fights at the Apex, you do get that huge shine in New York. Burgos brings it. That's going to be such a great fight. We're really happy for you, Billy. This is your moment, man.
Awesome, man. And I'm really glad to hear that, because that was, I got a little bit of, like people trolling me and talking shit after the Ultimate Fighter back in 2015. Like I came up short. But that Spike fight, I know a lot of people bet on that fight, whether they bet for me or bet against me. And there were so many people that bet on Spike, and they were like, oh man, you didn't win, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, all right, man, like whatever, I think I won. And it was Dana White's done it a couple times where he's like Billy Quarantillo. And I'm like, man, it's just, it's Quarantillo. But it's all good. He's my boss, and I just love what he's done with the sport, and it's grown such a huge amount since I started training. And I love hearing stories, especially after this Benitez fight. A ton of people hit me up and they're like, "Oh man, big underdog money. We won, money on you." And you always remember fighters that you win money on, especially if you're not doing so good and they come up with a big clutch win. So I love to hear that, man. I'm glad I could make you happy. There was a lot of people, talking smack after that fight. So it's good to hear some positives from it.
Yeah, no doubt. That, along with, you're kind of in our game. You're sort of a member of the media. You're on a broadcast team. We're happy for you. I can already tell you have a good voice that can make it a pleasurable experience for the listener, whoever's watching these fights. So congrats to you and your partner, Jay, on what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
It looks like, we're probably almost at that stage where you're already ready to taper down. Maybe all the hardest practices are either done or they're in the next day or so. And now you can kind of cruise control into the big fight week.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you said that. This morning was one of those days where it's like I had a really good training camp, almost like too good. Like last training camp, I don't know if you guys saw it, but I posted it after the fight. I had a huge gash on my eye, and it happened like 2.5 weeks before the fight, and I was so nervous about it. We almost pulled out of the fight. My manager thought we should pull out. My friend Joe Lozon was like, it's not worth it. Like, don't take the fight. So last fight, even though I had a great fight, the training camp was kind of in turmoil. Like there was a lot of things that weren't going my way. This training camp, I felt really healthy. I haven't worked a second job. I cut down on my private lessons that I teach people. And the only focus has been on this fight, and I haven't been as beat up and I haven't been going through it as much. But this morning was definitely, I woke up and I'm like, I had to do a Muay Thai private lesson, and I was just exhausted and beat up. And today was one of those days where I was like, all right, man, you had a good training camp. We could taper down a little bit today. I still have one workout after this tonight. But yeah, it's been a great training camp. I got no excuses going into this fight. I'm on pace to have a great weight cut. I'm against an absolute killer in Shane Burgos. This fight pretty much sells itself, and we're on there with such a stacked card that I think people are just going to go crazy when we're going out there fighting. It's going to be such an exciting time, and I'm just blessed to be in this position.
And just to be clear, do you guys lead off the pay-per-view, or are you in the number 2 slot?
We are in the number 2 slot, which is, I grew up watching Frankie Edgar. He's one of my all-time favorites. Chito Vera is just a boss too. This will be the first fight where I don't mind going up to people and asking for pictures. I'm hoping to get a few pictures because I don't like doing that. And there hasn't really been. There's been some stars, but I just I'm kind of about myself. But yeah, we're going to be the second fight. I'm in between Frankie Edgar and the Justin Gaethje fight. So I think we're in a great spot. I think they know what they're doing. They know it's going to be an extremely violent fight. The whole main card, I don't see any boring fights on there. Like I said, it's a dream come true to be in this position. And I know what this fight could do for me. A win in this fight can put my career in, a massive push for it. A loss sets me back. So I know what I have to do. And I have a great set of coaches. Shout out to all my guys at Gracie Tampa South. Shout out to my guys at Driven. We've put together a really good game plan. My conditioning's on point, and I'm ready just to put on a show for everyone.
I can already tell you're going to be fighting at 10:45 p.m. Eastern time. Just so you know, you might as well get your body ready for that. It starts at 10. Edgar and Vera, no disrespect, they'll probably go the distance. They're just tough. They're tough, and
tough to put away.
They're tough to put away, yeah. But at least you'll kind of have an idea of when you're fighting, and then you and Burgos is going to be lightning. I love it.
I can't wait, man. Thank you.
Gaethje and Chandler, and then 2 title fights. Sick. Do not stress over taking pictures or nothing, man. Every weekend I watch soccer, and the top guys ask the other top guys for the jersey swap. That's what they do in soccer. It's kind of like the version of let's take a pic or whatever, have a drink. I don't know.
Yeah.
And those are the top guys asking the top guys all the time. So just go out there and have fun, bro. As hard as these camps and as hard as these weight cuts are, and as brutal as this sport is, have fun when it counts.
Yeah, man, you're right, man. You nailed it. I was just watching the Embedded actually, and Jan, the champion Jan was talking, and he was like, it's all about the journey, just enjoying it. And I've already done a fight week in Madison Square Garden for my teammate Matt Frivola, who had a war with Landau Veneta a couple years ago. So I already kind of got the vibes of Madison Square Garden, of fight week, of Times Square. But now I'm in the driver's seat, and I've been enjoying it so far, man. I love the sport, love the position I'm in. I don't take it for granted, because even on like the bad days, like today, I was having the worst day. Just like being run down and being beat up. But I remember I've had those same moments, and I'm fighting for, a few $100 a fight that not a lot of people are going to see. So at least now, as beat up as I am, as sore as I am, as tough as I think it is, I'm in a position that I've been dreaming about since I started the sport. So even on my bad days, it's a good day. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
How many times in your life have you said steamroller?
Oh man, probably at least a few hundred. Even we were at his wedding about a month ago, and they were chanting it there too. So he's got a great group of teammates at Law MMA. Ray Longo, I can't wait to see him. Matt Serra, all of his teammates. They're all so welcoming of me, and I feel like I'm like an extension of that team. So I can't wait to see all them on Monday next week. I'm going to train with them for a couple days and then head over to the city.
Matt seems like a nice guy. That's a very cool nickname. And if I was in the group, I'd be shouting it at the top of my lungs. Yeah. However, if you're not a part of the group, you almost want to strangle that side, because at the Dana White Contender Series years ago, Goz and I were we were in the hot gym, right? At the old, we were in the old tough gym, not the new air conditioned Apex.
I know it.
They must have said steamroller about 500 times, and I honestly just wanted to toss a grenade over to that side because I couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah, I was there actually. I was there yelling steamroller. I was in the first row, and that was, like you said, that was the old tough gym. I actually fought there a couple times.
Yeah.
The steamroller chant. You like in the crowd, like when people are chanting, some people will jump in, and then if he doesn't do well, you hear a lot of other people that like. Ooh. It's just irritating to them, which I get, but it's fun. It's an awesome nickname. It was actually given to him by his former uncle who unfortunately passed away. So it's very meaningful. He gave him that nickname, his Uncle Dolzy, who actually used to drive. Crazy story. Actually, I think Joe Rogan used to drive Dolzy around. So Joe Rogan knows him and his family pretty well. He passed away a couple of years ago, but the nickname carries on, and it's definitely more meaningful to him because of it.
If you don't mind, so Joe Rogan was what, like a limo driver a long time ago or something like that? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that was the story that Matt Frivola's Uncle Dolzy, who was obviously, but back in the day, I don't know why he had a driver. I don't know like what he did that he was so important, but I guess Joe Rogan used to drive him around as like one of his side gigs back in the day. Wow. So yeah, it was a cool story. He's actually mentioned it once on his podcast, on the Joe Rogan podcast. I remember they tagged Matt in it and I checked it out. He mentioned it once. I don't know the full story. You'd have to get it from the steamroller himself, but I know that they have a little history, which is pretty cool.
Is Dolzy, was he rich or was he famous or was he like kind of one of the
he was, I don't know, he wasn't famous, but although it seems like all those guys have money, like Matt's dad does pretty well for himself, and their whole crew, it's a bunch of like old Italians. It's like the guys from like Goodfellas. They all wear like gold chains, and they're all like bosses in like Long Island. So they all got the accent. They all like treat me like I'm like their nephew. So it's just a really good group of people, and I just love their vibes.
So we'll just keep the jokes to ourselves. We don't want to piss anyone off. We don't want to wind up in the East River or anything like that.
Exactly.
Hey, man, we had a great time with you. Thanks so much for your time. Good luck with the rest of the camp, the weight cut, the travels to New York. Go out there and have a blast at UFC 268.
Oh, man, really appreciate you guys having me. Anytime you guys want to chat, just give me a buzz.
Thank you, sir. Take care.